sharing my screen. Hope you are guys able to see my screen. So we have understood to load the context variables from outside of the Talend. So using if you want to use the so you want to use this connector. So where you are going to maintain, right? You have to connect first, right? So you have to connect table whatever you are loading the context variables from the database. If you are directly using a file, there is no point of like a database connection and context load. So when you are using the context variables, before that you have to get the connection details of database. So you have to connect the database and then only you will able to do that. So this template I am keep repeating, right? The first flow is nowadays, right? People are always using this file only because there is no relational data. People are going for NoSQL or Hadoop. So they're not keeping variables in table. So most of them are maintaining the and every functionality. So whatever variables are related, whatever jobs they create, right? For that, how many variables they're going to maintain, they'll keep n number of context. There is no like just to understand I have created a 4 files, but it's not the case. It will be n number of files. You can create context files and you can manage your coding standards. So you no need to strictly you have to put all the context variables in one file. That is not the case. You can create n number of files, so you can maintain n number of files. So this is like a here, right? You can put dev some account functionality or some kind of module. So you can maintain a number of context files and you can like manage the context variables and related values in a side. Same way for a table also, but a table is a real like a relational database. So people use they try to keep the all the variables. So however, so if the person is creating a new context file, so what is the flow it's going to be? You have to keep the file whatever context file it is and you have to use the context load. So context load is a component which is going to load all the context variables and keep in memory, and it will pass whenever you required, wherever you are calling. It's not mandatory. So you have a 10 variables, all 10 variables are going to be used in the same job. It may be used in other job, but whatever is used in this job, that values are going to assigned from context load component automatically. Okay, so this is very useful, and this is the feature which has a Talend as a specific to Talend. So other tools have a different for running different environments, but Talend has come up with contextualization which is going to have outside of your code, so you can easily manage, easily you can change whatever values you want to pass. So no need to touch even you have some commit entries. So for example, we didn't discuss about like you have commit intervals. So for example, you have thought it is going to be 100 for initially, but later you want to keep more than 100 or more than things. So you can as much as whatever variables, whatever things you can able to you can make it a dynamic, like a variable you can just create and you can pass the related values from outside of the code. So like that you can use even hints, whatever you are going to use hints, right? These things also you can keep the context variables. So there is no like only for correction details or file path. Wherever you are seeing, even delimiter also you can make it a context. So today they are saying comma, so you can maintain a delimiter. So you can keep that context dot delimiter, some variable you can keep in your context file. So today they ask comma, so you have the comma, and tomorrow they ask you to change it to semicolon. You can simply no need to open the Talent Studio, you can just simply change in the context file. So that is the advantage. Here you can maintain delimiter, and you can use semicolon today. So as per the requirement, you are using semicolon today. Tomorrow they ask pipe, you can just change the pipe. So nothing much difference, right? So it's going to be very easy to manage the code, easy to manage the things outside of the Talend code. So there is no restriction, only paths, only thing. So how many things you can able to contextualize, even header also you want to contextualize header, you can contextualize the header also. So whatever you are seeing in like a component settings, what can be able to create a variable and you can call that, you can do that. Okay, so every component, so here you are calling context file, so you can keep the context file path, or you want to create some error message also, you want to call a customized error message which you want to pass to the context variable, you can pass that. This is what, this is a static, right? So this is the value you can keep in a one context variable, you can call that variable. Later point you want to change the text of this context, so value of this variable you can change in the file, automatically the value will be replaced in the component. So you can manage without opening your Talend code, or whatever you want to change through variables. That is the advantage of contextualization. Okay, so now one I told you, right, one concept is left. This is called like kind of explicitly, like you are doing outside of Talent Studio. Earlier days, right, initially Talent is started, they don't have they come up with a concept called inbuilt. So you don't need have this process separately, you can make it in a within the project level. So the setting of context file, everything you can done in a project level. So automatically your jobs automatically read from that context file. So if you go to the project settings, here you can see the Titan, right? So you can see the project settings. There you can find a job setting, you can find an implicit context here. So implicit context, in the sense, it will be a within your like a within your project, you are within your code. So once you set up this one, right, this will automatically applicable to all your jobs. Whenever you create a new job, automatically it will start looking for the context which is loading by the file, whatever. Here you can check this box, you can find the from file from database. So here you can use a from file, you can refer the path of the file. So what is the separator? So whatever you are doing, right? So generic context I am going to use here. So generic means it can be anything, like it is going to be a prod or dev or UAT or SIT. So whatever environment, you can keep the common name. So you should not specific to environment, because this is going to get from the environment level variable. So you can use that, and you can specify your what is the separator. So you can use a comma separator, which we have in our context file. So you can use any separator. So you can find what we have. Let me this one. So the file, this is not required, because we are not setting up in a project level. So this is going to be your project settings. You can find that option, the implicit context load in a under project settings. You can go to the job settings, under you can see the implicit context. So I'm just referring that generic file. So this also be, they can maintain a system variable, and each and every environment when you are running, right, automatically that will get loaded from the environment variable, all the context variables, whatever. So nowadays people, this is a little tricky, and a little like if you have a n number of environments, everywhere you have to maintain this kind of setup to environment variable and all. So nobody is using the implicit context, everybody is doing the outside of code. This is a like a you are tightly coupling your context and jobs and everything, right? This is going to be a this if you want to change something, it's not that easy because it's a project level setting. So you are making the everything in a project level setting. So this is a people are not using to avoid such kind of like they want to maintain n number of context files or a number of context tables, so they can easily manage outside of project settings. If you have project settings you have done, it is going to be a one time setup, and it is not, if you want to change something, it is going to reflect all the jobs. It's not that simple. And mm, like likewise everyone thinks as much as to avoid the dependencies on anything, right? So that's why they are not using the implicit context at all. If you use this one, right, you just I'm applying. If you, what will happen, it will automatically apply for, it will ask, do you want to update for all the jobs, and you want to make a long time to depend, like it's going to take a long time. And you can open, if you create any new job, automatically it will look for the context variables which you are going to create under this job. It should expect in this common file. So if you go here, so I'm going to deactivate this. We don't need this loader because already these people are going to, if you are set up in a project level, so it will take care of loading the context and all. We don't need a separate context load concept when you are using a project level settings. So just you can deactivate and you can use the context. So automatically the file, right, db related context already we have in that context. So whenever you select that project setting, automatically if you go to the job, you can find that whatever context you have used, automatically it will get reflected, and you can find all the context variables, so where you are getting the context files and all. So now I'm going to use project settings. You can find that project settings, automatically the context are reflected. So now I'm going to run this job. So we don't have any values here, right? So we don't have a DB connection, and I'm going to remove this context file. We don't need. So we are going to get the name. So name, where it is going to come. If you have that name value, we don't have this name value. So we will get null value. Okay. Whenever you're running the job, automatically it's going to pick from the project settings. So project settings, we have already given the generic context. So generic context doesn't have the name field. So you are going to get what we are going to get. We have a null in the, so we don't have any value here. So you are going to get the null value. So if you add in the context file, it will get the date value of that variable from the context file. So I'm going to run this. So you can see, right? So is now parameter getting from implicit. So you can see, right, it is able to read from the file and it is able to get that. And we have provided a system.out.println context name. That value is not printed. So you can see here, right, just author of the job name, just it is printed the statement, but value it is not able to get, empty space. So you want to get that value, what we have to do, we have to add that variable into your generic context also. I'm going to copy this and add into the generic context. Now if you run again, so it will get that value from the generic context file. So we are not explicitly using any component to load the context files and all. We are doing the project level settings. So it will take care of loading the all the context variable. Now you see, right? It is able to get the value of name from the context file. So this is the advantage, and this is now become a like a, even it is going to be a tightly coupled. Like you cannot so you cannot, if you want to change something or you want to change some other context file, then it won't allow multiple context file. So it will allow only one context file. So same way for database also, it will allow for database. If you want to have multiple databases and all, every time you have to go and change the setup of this one. So to avoid this one, people are not using they're using a explicitly using the component. So this is going to do the same. So whatever project level settings, you don't need a explicitly, you don't need to use the file or loading into the context component. These things are can be avoided when you are doing the project level setting. So project level setting, so the context load, implicit context load, that keyword, so implicitly it will take care of the loading all the variables into your jobs. So it will going to reflect each and every job. If I go and say, if you have applied this and if you create a new job, you no need to you no need to worry about the context load and all. You no need to create that first flow. So just you create a new job. I just create a new job. If you go here, if it is automatically reflected, see the project setting is automatically reflected. If you create n number of jobs, automatically the project settings will be reflected. So you no need to again no need to do explicitly. These flows are not going to be used because you are already doing implicit. So implicit is advantage is it is a one-time setup. It's a project level setting. But if you want to handle with multiple variables and multiple context files, then it's not going to help. Because of that, people are nowhere you are going to see implicit context concept in a real time. People are going to use a separate outside of the code. And this is like again, this is not a like this is not a this is a one time usable. Like you want to change every time, then you have to come to the project settings, you have to change it. So this is not that advantage for the people nowadays. We are like a, it is all like a the behavior of each and every functionality. So in a same project, you will have a multiple functionalities or modules. So each and every module, they want to keep a separate context file. Like it's a modularization is going to happen like a object oriented. Everyone thinks everything should be in a separate functionality. So you should not keep all the methods, all the functions, everything in a one kind of package or something. So they want to make it a modules separate. So in that case, this implicit context is not going to help. So that's why they are not using at all. So even interview also, so many people even not even asking, or who are having the good experience, they'll just ask, check, you have a knowledge on the project settings or not. This is comes under project setting. So if somebody asks, it is under project setting, there is implicit context. So but it is going to be tightly coupled. So no, we are not using any project. Don't tell we are using the implicit context. You are aware of it. You have knowledge on it. True. So like it is a project setting, and it's going to have a like a tightly coupled and specific environment related context file or context table, which is going to read all the variables we can set up. But we are not using because it's not that flexible, because we have a multiple tracks in a project and multiple modules. So we want to keep different context files for each and every module, and different tables also we are maintaining, because we have a number of going to be a number of values and related to variables in each and every functionality. So we don't want to keep all the variables, all the like all things in a one file. So to avoid that kind of tightly couple, we want to make loosely couple from functionality to functionality. So we are doing the outside of the project setting. So project setting implicit context we are not using. Any questions on this? this is a interview. They'll ask, have you used the implicit context? So you can say not using, but it is available under project setting. That is your answer. And what is implicit context? So the context variables will be loaded automatically by that tool. It's not, you don't need to create any flow to load the context variables and all. It will be automatically take care by the settings of tool. Any questions on this? No? So you can select the print option. These options are common. If you see, right, the setup entire whatever these whatever setup you can see in the component also. This they have whatever they have done in the project level setting, same setup you can see in the component level also. Nothing much difference, but the only difference they have given separate a separate component. So you can see the same set of options, same set of variables, and you can see, right, print option, disable errors, disable warning, disable info, die on error. So same options you have seen in the implicit context also. So there is a nothing change. So they are taking care with the project. So with the they are going to load everything. So whatever that context load component is doing, that functionality they are set up in the project level. So all these options you can compare, right? You can find all. So whatever is print operation, disable errors, warnings, and you can see the override encoding, and you can see the warnings of if you want a variable is not context. So if the variable loaded but not in the context, so you have added one variable and it is not there in the context, so you want to put as a warning, you can select warning, or you want to make it as a error, you can make it as a error. If the variable is in the context but it's not loaded, because you can say warning, it's a error. So if the variable is available in context but you are not added in a file, that is going to be error, right? So you will not get the value of that variable. So same setup you can see in the context also. So context load component, whatever is doing, you can find in the implicit context functionality. It is under project settings. So I am just printed that operation. So what is the variable and what is the value it is going to print on the console. So this is how, if you use the print operations, same option you have in the context load component also, you can select the print operations, then it will print whatever values. I'm going to remove the project settings. So I'm deactivating again. Okay. So what is happening? So we haven't asked the runtime. So which file to take? We didn't have the context file information. So it should ask the context. You are selected default and there is no prompt check. So it is trying to fetch the file. There is no file, context file. So it is not able to load anything. So it is failed with connection establishment. So you have to select the which is going to prompt your context file runtime. So now you see, right? It is printing same. So same print operations. So this is how we are going to use. Same thing you can use for table also. So you can select the database and you can configure. So we have already set up the context, right? So you can just get the repository. So whatever, so you can maintain the all the context whatever is there in a particular database and particular server, and you can keep the table name. So what is your table name? So you can find the table name as context. So here you can use the, if you have any specific query on the table, so context table you want to load. So this is what, so one database you are connecting, and you will have maintain, you can maintain the environment also. So you can add one more variable to this environment. So same database you are connecting, and you want to keep the variables, whatever all the variables you want to keep all the variables in a same table, then you can add environment specific also, so that your implicit context will filter the, if based on the environment. So based on the environment you are going to get the values. So multiple ways. This is up to it's a depends on project need, or depends on which is a comfortable for the environment. Based on that, we can make changes. The context files or context tables are, but implicit context is specific to project level setting. So you want to do any, you want to do one file, or you want to have one database, or everything is a one, then you can able to manage through using the context. So otherwise it's going to be explicit. So always explicit is going to be a flexible, right? So you don't need to open the Talent Studio, and you don't need to change anything of anything from the studio level. So this is again studio level. So project settings are available studio level. So you cannot perform outside of the studio. So how you can change these things? You not possible. So implicit context is a one-time setup in a project level. So that's where they are giving a, under project settings you can see the job settings and all. So now you can create a here variable. Okay, we have removed that. So just a same file path I created for two environments, and I am specifying the environment for UAT and dev. So what is the issue? Okay, the variable name is key. Okay, just this is what we are keeping as a context, right? So now it is not allowing same variable. So you have to change. That is what, according to your process, if you want to keep all the variables different environments, then you have to make sure the variables are different from other environment.
so that it can able to key is going to be a unique, right? It's not going to be a same key for multiple values. So it's going to be a one key and one value. So that's where it is not allowing. So you can change accordingly. You can add a sequence before this table. So sequence is going to be your primary key. So you can add same variable also. But when you are filtering the data, you have to select the which environment. So based on, you can add a query here, right? So you can just check the environment equal to. So you can pass the context value. Right now I'm just hard coding. So you can use the dev. So like this you can filter only for environment level, but again it is a tightly coupling, right? So you are again you are making only for dev environment, and tomorrow it will be again, you have to make sure this is a contextualized, otherwise it's not going to, it will always run for dev environment, or if you put as a UAT then it will going to be always environment. So that's why people are not using the implicit context. So I'm removing this, we don't need this, and I'm going to just change. So because I just want to get the file path from the implicit context. So all variables can be loaded from the implicit context. I'm removing this also. We don't need a external context load concept because we are using implicit context, and we are trying to get from the database whatever variables are there in the table. Going to use a default, and this job has already project settings enabled or not, we have to see. But once you set up, automatically project settings will come. But this job already I opened, that's why I manually enable the project settings. Otherwise whenever you create a new job, if already project settings are you set up, automatically it will get into your job, so automatically it will reflect. So I'm going to, so we can run here. So file path, I just want to print the file path. So just whatever file path I have provided, right? So I have provided two variables which is going to have file path and file path 1. I want to print these two variables. Just I am using the another job to print the values whatever we have provided in a context variable table. So these variables, if you don't have here, so automatically you will get error. So to avoid the error, because it's a variable is not declared in this job. So in this job, we don't have any variables. So what is the point of loading the context and getting the value? So it will automatically throw you error. So there is no variables, right? So if it will not allow, if you run this job, what will happen? It will throw you context.file path is not found. The variables are not found. Otherwise it will try to load and it will say error. So whatever variables you are using, you have to make sure you have created in the uh, you have created in the job. Otherwise there is no point of loading, right? So you have to add the file path. You want to use the value from outside like implicit whatever. So you want to get the value and you have to replace the value of that variable. Then you have to use the variable should be created in your job level. Otherwise you will not use a variable value whatever you have in a file or a database context, wherever you have that values, but you are not using that variable, then what is the point of loading the variable? You see, right? So it is able to get that. So we have created a two variables, dev and UAT. You can see that it is able to print that values. So just it is printed. So this is how it is going to be used a implicit. So implicit context is project level setting. It's a under this, right, if you open any job, you can find that settings are automatically enabled. When you are apply and close that settings, right, it will ask you, it can be applied for all the jobs. If you go and see every job, the project settings are automatically enabled. So this is a, if you change the file path or whatever you want to change the file path, it will, if the file path is already there in that context table or somewhere, then it will get the loaded the value and it will be used by that, and it will process the data whatever you are doing. So project settings will automatically enable whenever you set up that project setting implicit context. So context loads are two types, like you can call explicit, right? So explicit in the sense you have a flow, so you can read from the file and you can load into the context using context load component. You have a table, you can load the context values using the context load component. Or you don't want to do with the external, you want to do like implicitly within a Talend, then you go for project settings. You can set the context variables and save table, what table you want to read the context variable, you can set up in the implicitly. So if you are doing that, you don't need this flow in your each and every job. So in general, in a real time, you are going to have this kind of step like t file delimited and loading into the context load component, and before that they'll put a t file exist component, so they'll check the file exist or not. We are using that file existing. So file existing is not there, the file is not exist, then they will explode. So that kind of pattern of design your job you are going to see in real time. So implicit nobody is using, maybe one or two rare case if the customer they're using, then we are good. But generally in nowadays nobody using the implicit project settings within studio, because it's going to be a like headache for in future. All studio and all over the you have to replace whatever the this is very important, and people will ask how you are managing your code in Talend. So only answer is we are maintaining a different context groups for each and every environment, and same code we are going to run for different environments. And the context related variables and values, we are maintaining a file or a table, you can say, and each and every environment will have a individual table. So database, we are going to have a dev related table. So how we created, right, each and every schema, we have created a separate table for the loading the context variables and all. Or if you are saying file system, then you can say we are having a each and every to load the context variables and all. You are managing the code, the question whenever it comes to you in a code management in a different environments, you have to talk about contextualization, and you have to explain what are the things you are taking care when you are moving the code from one environment to other environment. And these components you have to remember. So if you are using a file, then you have to say file delimiter, and we are having the key and value pair in that context. So key is going to be a context variable and value to load t context load component. If you are using database, we are maintaining a database table called some table, you can say environments. Any questions on this? With this, we are good with the contextualization. Hope you guys at least started using this. And this is like when you are hearing, it may be a little tricky, but when you start practicing, it's very simple. Like it's very simple, and you can feel that it is looks like very easy. So you are changing the just you are changing the environment, and you are running for which environment you want. You want to load. How to add that what values and what variables you are using in a outside. So once you've done that one, whenever you same otherwise this is very easy and you can easily.
Krishna, we are not able to hear you.
How is now, Sai?
Yeah, in between, the voice is breaking actually.
Okay. Now,
No better.
okay. So I'll again repeat. So this is very simple. This looks very, when you are hearing that will be difficult, but when you start practicing, you feel that how simple it is. So just setting up the context file and context table, and you can select the respective environment, and you can simply load it. Job, right? Earlier little tricky, and otherwise if we don't have this context concept, right? What we have to do, we have to create each and every environment related jobs, and you have to pass the context values or a hard coding like a production related. You have a host name and username, and again you wait, you have to pass the post name and username. But this is just a simple of maintaining the configuration file. This is nothing but a configuration file for our project. So whatever jobs you are creating and related variables and all, you are maintaining in a one configuration file. So they'll call it as a configuration file or context parameter file or context load file. So they'll call a number of ways, but the intention of intention of this one is to touch this context concept, right? Never hard coded. Hard coded in the sense you are passing the path of the file from your local mission, specific path, whatever. So do never do. So just create a context variable, and you can have that. So just you want to run test the jobs, you can have in the context level the variables, whatever variables you want to pass, you can use that in a context level. So never use the component level, the passing the variables, whatever the variables, you have to pass the variables. Not we don't want to see any path or any variable value directly in the component settings. Once you are good with the context, start using the context variable, create as many context variables, and you can make the values here, and you can run the practice. Even delimiter also I'm telling, right? If you are interested, or delimiter is not going to change in either way, but if still you want to make this, you don't want to see this kind of hard coded, you can use the delimiter. Just you can have one variable which is going to have a delimiter. So you can create a one variable here delimiter, and you can pass that delimiter value. So that is how you can going to be everything parameterized. All the components, whatever is applicable to call the variables, you can call that context variables. Okay, even header also. So header may be first line for some files, and some files they'll say at the fifth row you will have a header. So you cannot go and use the component, you can change this fifth, right? Instead of doing, you can keep the context variable. So header, right? You can just keep the header line. So header line. So you can call this in a any component which where you want to call a header. So if you, the header is going to change every file, they'll have the file will going to have fourth row or sixth row, whatever. So you no need to open and edit that context variable, right? You just outside of the file, you can have this context header context variable header line. in your context file, and whenever they say it's going to be fifth line of your file, then you can simply pass that value to 5. So if they say it is going to be 1, then you can easily change to 1. So how easy it is going to be when you have parameterized. So parameter means it's going to be so who
Krishna, we are not able to hear anything.
how
Is
is
it
now
same for
Sai?
everyone? Uh, but in between, we are not able to hear Krishna. Now we are able to hear, but
Yes,
after
we
some
are not
time,
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
So now it is good, right?
yeah, now it's fine.
Okay, I'm not doing anything actually. Okay. Maybe network issue, maybe internet is dropping, maybe. Okay, so logging is like whatever I discussed again. I'm repeating. So logging is very important. Logging in the sense, what is the logs? So what logs is kind of it is going to be a failure, or it is going to be a start of your job or end of your job. These kind of information always. So for example, I'm telling employee. So I have a company and employees are coming and going. So thousands of people are working in the same office. So some people will come at afternoon, some people will come at morning, some people will come at night, so whatever. So they have a shift timings and all. So I have to log these details, right? So based on shift, I'm going to pay the money also people. So but I have to get that information. Actually he is logging at whatever shift is assigned to him. He is working on that hours or not. So the hours logging, how we are doing in a company, right? Same way, jobs also we have to log the information. So when the job is started, when it is completed, and if there is a failure. For example, employee may take sick leave, or employee may not able to come to the office due to some outside issues, whatever. So I am not going to log that hours, right? So he is not able to come into the office, then how we can log the hours? So he is taking sick leave, he cannot log the hours, right? Sick leave is like a error, a exception. We don't know when we are going to go on a sick. So that is a exception. Same way, job also maybe get sick. So job every day it is running, suddenly one day it will fail. So because it got a sick, it is due to connection issue, or whatever location or path is removed by someone. So suddenly it get a exception, it is job get sick. So job is not going to run in as expected. So employee is working every day and coming at 9 and leaving at 6 p.m. That is a plan of his shift. But suddenly he'll get sick and he's not going to log the hours because he's taking a sick leave. Same way, job is going to be going to fail due to some connection. So that kind of information. So whenever he is going to on sick, we are applying the sick leave. Same way, when your job is failed, that entry we have to make in a table. So what is that error, and why he is not able to come to office, why this job is not able to run? So logging is a very important when you are designing any job. So this is logging is going to have a three common components. Apart from that, other components, even t die error, t warn, these are all coming under log only. But mainly you want to capture if there is any failure occur within the job, you are going to use the log catcher component. So log catcher, when it is going to occur, if there is any failure in your job, it is going to take that why this is failed, what is the error it is failed. When you are going to on a sick, you are not coming office, when you are going to apply, if you are taking a sick leave, then you are going to apply the sick leave. Same way, when you are log catcher, what it is going to do, when job is failed, when job is get sicked, then only log catcher will activate. So you are going on a personal or planned leave, or you are taking off planned, then you will not go and apply the sick leave, right? So sick leave is means specific to uh, you are not good and you are not able to work something, then you will plan as a you can apply for a sick leave. Same way, log catcher is a when job is running fine, it won't take anything from that. So when there is a failure occur, then log catcher is going to get that entry and it will load into the wherever you want. Like you want to store in a table or you want to store in a file, you can store it. So this is the component which is going to have a specific schema. What is the project id, what is the process id, what is the root product id, and what is the project, and what is your job name, what is the context, and what is the priority, the error priority, and origin is a what component, and message is a what message, what is the error message. So if you are sick, so you want to explain why you are sick, what is your sick, and everything. So you have to tell to your manager. Same way, this component will capture all the information, why it is failed and which component is failed, what is the error message. That kind of information will capture by this component. So this component, so just I am using log row to print that. Okay, and I'll make a mistake to db connection. So I'll capture the error failure of db connection. So to make that mistake, what we have to do, we have to do some kind of change in your context file. I'm going to remove the host name. I'm removing the host name. So I'm removing the host name. So completely server name I have removed, and I'm going to run this job. So I have changed it in dev context. So I'm just testing all jobs we are going to test in dev environment going forward. Whatever I'm explaining, dev only I'll explain. Okay, we don't need a UAT prod. We are not doing any project here, right? So we are just going to run in dev environment. So I'm going to pass this dev context file. What is this? So it is loaded. I haven't saved this context file. Mhm. Interesting why it is able to get the sometimes it will behave weird. So just you can close and open your job because we don't have a value host name, but still it is able to connect and get that. We have removed the project settings and we don't have values in context level, so we don't have, right? So just but still it is able to connect. change it in dev context only, right? Okay. So now, so now debug this issue, right? What you have to use t context dump. So how that host name is getting into the job, because host name we have not specified in your studio level and you don't have in a context file, but still it is able to load the host name and it is able to connect the database. So I don't know where I'm missing. So to check that the context file, whatever you want, see what values are getting. So host name is not coming, but still job is able to connect. How it is connecting. Okay, I'll change the, so I'll change the schema. If it is working for this, then why it's not working for a host? So that schema is not there, right? So you can see that it didn't find the, so it capture the error. So it will print that what is the job name and what is the project name and what is the exception. So there is no unknown database. So it is giving that error message, what is that and which component is throwing. It is throwing a component also you can find in the origin. So origin is a component where you can find tdb connection. So tdb connection, it is trying to replace that whatever schema we have provided. So whatever schema we have provided, right? So it is not able to find that schema, so database. But same way it should have failed for host also. We are not passing the host value, right? So I'm again trying. If not, then we can leave for now. So host name, I'm don't have that host name in server, like context file. So it is going simply. So without host name, it is able to connect and it is able to it is able to success. But if you provide the schema, this is mystery. I'll check it later. But if you provide something, you made a mistake. So this is a schema we don't have, right? So if you provide typo, or if you have that kind of schema is not created by them. So if you run this job, what will happen? The job is look for that schema. So that schema is not exist in your database. So obviously it will not connect to the database also, because that it is look for database. So the database is not available in your database. So it is throwing error. It is saying unknown schema name. Where it is capturing, it will generally fail. So this the part of error is generally you will get this error. So only this null pointer exception you will get it. But in detail, who is doing in detail of where is the component failed and what is the issue, the log catcher is capturing that information. So what is the issue and which component it is failed, and what kind of error it is. So here you can see, right, there is a this one. So it is saying SQL syntax exception, unknown database. So this is what you want to capture, this kind of log. So why you sick means you have to tell, right? I got fever, I got some corona, whatever. You will have that reason. So we need that reason also, right? So how many days of sick leave you are taking based on your sick, they'll allocate the number of days, right? Same way you have to know what is the component, what is the error it is failed. That information you have to keep track of it, and you can store this one. So now I am just print, or you can use a DB component. So you can put a T MySQL. So in this case, it is not connected to database. So we'll use a T file output delimiter, and you can connect to this. So log catcher component, what is the purpose? To capture the any failure happened while. So it will capture only logs and. Okay, fine. So now one row is passed. You can see, you can go to log folder. So file is created. So you can open this. You can see the entry. So this is how you are going to capture your entry of your job failure. So what is the issue? Unknown database issue. So this file is going to be every day, the date will be there, right? So when the job is failed, that will be captured in a moment, and what is the job name, and what is the job process ID, and what is type of error, and which component. So origin is a which component. So which component is a origin, and message, what is the error message, and it will generate a error code for the same. So this is how the log catcher is going to help you to capture any failure happened in between. It's a runtime, so it's not a compile. So if you have provided some syntax issue, that's not a runtime issue, right? It's a compile. It will not allow you to even run the job. But if there is something is running in between, it is failed. So context load is running, and it is failed at db, so it is not able to establish connection due to the schema is not exist in your database. So that is a runtime. We are not aware of it. The database is not available or not in a database. We just passed whatever they provided, but it is not able to find in database. So it is a exception which is not expected. So you are not expected, the database is not available. Okay, but in this case we wantedly made that mistake. Okay, this is how log catcher is going to help to catch any exception in your job, and you can store that schema whatever we have, that information of each and every job related and component related information. You can see that in schema. So I'm going to stop here. We'll continue on other two components, and this is a job level setting, and for this also we have a project level setting. So how we are going to do in a project level settings and all, we are going to see tomorrow, like Monday. Okay, I'm going to stop here. We'll continue